Hello, you join me outside building number 93 at Bicester Heritage. It's called the Blast House because it's got an extra layer of wall surrounding it, and it was used to protect people from blasts, from bombs during the war. And it's now home to a historic car specialist called Pendine, and they very kindly allowed me, and me only, because Ben's on holiday, to go and have a little look around and see what they got in stock, so why not? Right, so we're now with Johnny, who works here at Pendine. He's going to give us a little whistle-stop tour around this stock, because we came here a few days ago and it's already chopped and changed and whatever. So I guess we'll start at the far end, I suppose, with the DB5.
Yeah, Aston Martin DB5. This is quite an interesting car. It's been in long-term ownership. The current owner, he actually lives about a mile, if that, from Newport Pagnell, from the factory. The car is, we don't think, has actually ever been more than about 50 miles from the factory in all its life. So it lives a pretty cosseted life. And yeah, no, was painted a few years ago and had an engine rebuild, but it's actually a really original sort of untouched car. Two owners from new. And yeah,
and it doesn't really get more classic than that, does it? It's
a pretty iconic car, isn't it? You know, along with like Mini Coopers and E-type Jaguars. The DB5 will always be sort of an instantly recognisable car, and one for the history books, won't it? Yeah, it's a very, very cool thing. Next, again, I mean, took from one iconic car to another. 300 SL. 300 SL Roadster, yeah. This is a car which actually we sourced earlier this year for a client, and it's sort of ended up living with us for a little while. But yeah, really, really cool car. I mean, compared to equivalent cars of its time, it's just so far advanced. The Roadster have a slightly different rear suspension layout than the Coupe, so a lot of people regard the Roadsters as a more drivable or a better driving car. I mean, to your ordinary man on the street, probably wouldn't notice much of a difference. So.
I love the steering wheel in this one. Yeah. The other one, I'm not, controversial opinion, I've never been the biggest 300 SL
You know what?
fan.
Neither have I actually, and this is the first one I've really properly sort of spent some time behind the wheel in.
Yeah.
And they are annoyingly good.
TR3.
Yeah, this is quite a special little TR3. This is one of the X-Works rally cars. So it did the Liège-Rome-Liège rally, where it came third overall, which we believe is the highest placing for any TR triumph in competition. And it did the Tulip Rally as well, and it's a really lovely car. And
then I suppose onto this, which is by far and wide the most popular manufacturer in this showroom.
Yeah, it is. Well, Jaguars are our sort of that's what we'd say is our bread and butter. You know, we do post-war sports and racing cars, and predominantly sort of the British marques.
Yeah.
And this isn't just any old Mark II Jaguar. It's one of the famed Coombs Mark II Jaguars. So John Coombs, the famous Jaguar racing driver of the 60s, he modified some Mark II Jaguars to be a bit more performance orientated, and this is one of the few which he did. So it's got a few trick bits and pieces on it, as opposed to the factory.
And I can't imagine there were many Coombs specials.
No, I'm not sure exactly how many there were, but there's only sort of a handful of them. Yeah. This is a really lovely car again. This is a Series 1 63 car. Really quite unique in that it's never really been restored. It's always been maintained, and it drives amazingly well as a result of it. There's something about a car which hasn't been sort of all pulled apart and restored, which they just drive so much
just maintained.
Yeah, it's like putting on an old pair of slippers, you know. It just is lovely, you know, and this, it drives great, you know. It's one of those cars where you could just jump in and drive down to France.
And what I've noticed about the two E-types that are in the showroom are the wheels. I'm a massive fan of them because they're not polished.
These, so all E-types really, it wasn't, so E-types, the first ones had silver painted wire wheels.
Right.
American cars, a lot of those had chrome wire wheels from new, and it was sort of a factory option, but fundamentally E-Type should have silver painted wheels, so like on this AC. These are sort of 72 spoke wire wheels. They're actually painted in slightly more gunmetal grey, which I think works really nicely.
It does.
The ones on this E-Type are what's known as competition outside lace wheels. So they've got a different spoke pattern, and they're a bit more sort of competition orientated as well. So I always think silver painted wheels. Personally, I prefer them over chrome wire.
Oh yeah, they look so much better. We saw this in the courtyard, this one, a while ago, and we both agreed that it was, for some reason, one of the best looking ones we'd seen. Yeah,
this is a really lovely car. It was restored over in America and had quite a lot of money spent on it to make it a really good sort of fast road touring E-Type. So it's got quite a hot engine in it, running on triple Webers. It's got little things like it's got factory air conditioning. It's actually got electric power steering on it, which is something which I never thought an E-Type needed, but it actually makes quite a difference, especially for sort of parking it around.
True.
It works quite nicely with sort of the whole ethos of the car.
Yeah, I suppose if it's going to be driven a bit more, because I imagine putting power steering in a car like that can annoy a few people.
It varies. I guess it all depends. E-Types lend themselves quite nicely to upgrades, and especially if you want to use them, and sort of you can do some quite simple upgrades to get a lot more performance out of them. That's the great thing about cars in general, classic cars, whatever, is that at the end of the day you can make them
just
whatever
make
you
little
want.
touches to them.
It's your car. You can do what you like, and there's some super special original cars out there which you shouldn't touch, but there's plenty of left-hand drive Series 1 fixers out there, so why not make the ultimate E-Type, you know?
Fair enough. And then on to, well, there are 4 in here, and I'm not going to embarrass myself to get my one.
2 XK120 fixed heads. That's an XK140 fixed head, and that's an XK140 drop head.
Okay.
I haven't got any 150s at the moment, but the giveaway between the two is the 140 has the chrome strip on the bonnet.
Okay.
And you'll notice the XK120 doesn't. It's also got a slightly different roof line. The 140 is actually a slightly larger car, so it's got a bigger roof area. The 120s were famously quite difficult to get tall people in. These ones are actually, they've been modified slightly, so they're good, and this has lovely original interior, so it helps free up a bit of leg room.
The green one over there is it's beautiful.
Yeah, that's one of 9 cars which was modified by a gentleman called Nigel Dawes.
Okay.
And he owned one of the Aston Martin Le Mans DP prototype cars, which were painted in this shade of green.
Oh yeah.
And he built one car, which he kept for himself, and sort of all of his friends sort of went, "Oh, that's amazing! You know, can you build me one?" So he ended up building 9 in total, and they were done in the 90s. And the idea behind them was to, at the time, make the ultimate XK120. So rather than going sort of down the route of putting more modern equipment on, he used equipment like it's got an XK150 rear end. He sort of picked and chose from all of the Jaguars available at that time to create what in his mind was the ultimate Jaguar, and his attention to detail on it was amazing on all the cars.
And I suppose the one car in here that we haven't actually touched on yet, which is my favourite because I said this to you the other day.
Yeah. The AC Ace.
The AC Ace from Venezuela?
From Venezuela, yeah. So, one of 3 built. It was the Venezuelan AC dealer. He imported 3 cars. He imported quite a lot of cars, but of the cars he imported, he did 3 cars with a streamlined nose on. He basically looked at the factory design and thought, well, it's quite a slab front on them, so I reckon if I manufactured my own nose, I can get them to go a bit quicker, and that's exactly what he did. And they did go quicker. So, but yeah, they're sort of somewhere between a Maserati and a Ferrari. I think it's a really pretty car.
Well, thank you very much for showing me around.
No
this is,
anytime.
you know, I'm not just saying this. This is my favourite building on this entire campus.
Lots of people say that. You're not the only one. It's it's a pretty cool.
It is very
place.
Cool. But yeah, anyway, thank you very much.
No problem.
Well, there you go. That was my tour of Pendine. I've left the guys to get on with it. I hope you enjoyed it. It's a lovely showroom. They've got some great stuff in there. Do check them out because all the stuff in there is for sale. It is literally my idea of the perfect garage. The tiles, the doors. They've got old copies of Autosport magazine and all that sort of stuff in there that you don't need but you want. But yes, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you in the next one. I'm not sure if it'll just be me or Ben will be back or what's happening really, so we'll see you, I guess.